I'm Karl Jorgenson. I'm at the Salt Lake Community College School of Applied Technology. And as you saw here on our little video, we'd been tasked in 2014 with converting all of our courses and programs to a CBE design. And we'll get into what we define CBE as in a bit. But why? Why would we do that? We teach everything in the School of Applied Technology, from bookkeeping to welding. We're competency-based, short-term, open entry, open exit somewhat. And we have students start every Monday in the program. But when they finish a course, they can start the next course immediately with some limitations. The open exit is a misnomer. We have a fixed exit, but you're more than welcome to finish before you get to that fixed exit. We teach in hybrid CBE classes specifically designed to meet the needs of the adult learners. TAA, I don't know if any of you are familiar with those, but those are adult learners that have been displaced, federal financial aid students who are getting some training to get back into the workforce. Most of our programs, most of them are less than a year. You can get in, get out, and do some vocational, get a job, get back to life. But why CBE? Before we define it, why were we looking at CBE? Why did we write an inch worth of paperwork to get a CBE grant? So let's take an example. Keyboarding is a class that we require, and a lot of students come in and have it as part of their program. We designed this course to take someone who doesn't have any keyboarding experience, 0, to 40 words, correct words a minute on a 5-minute timing of average material. That's what industry told us was an entry level. That's what when we looked at jobs, we were told they needed to type 40 correct words a minute. So it was designed for somebody that had none to get to 40, and we came up with 160 hours through trial and error, through modifications. So student A has no typing experience. They're going to take 160 hours, no problem, right? But a lot of students come in already typing. Say, for example, student B here is typing 80 words. Or, no, they only need 80 hours because they're typing 20 words a minute. So we just need to double that. So they need 80 hours theoretically. And then somebody that comes in already knowing can type 40 correct words a minute, they need to, a week maybe to bone up and take the tests and exams, and off they go. So this was the issue that we were having. And in open entry, open exit, student A is there for the full time. Student B is there for half the time and then moves on to the next course. No problem. Student C is there for a week and then moves on. But there are two problems with this. The first problem is that they were paying for the whole 160 hours. We didn't think that was fair, especially for student C. And the other problem was if they were on federal financial aid, if they were a Pell Grant student, Pell would come back and say to student B, you got to pay us back 80 hours. We paid for 160. You only used 80. You got to pay us. So there's no reward. Student C would have to pay back 155 hours. You know, $2 an hour, that's $300. Our students didn't want to do that. I don't blame them. So then what happens? So rather than grade them out, this is what they do in class. They sleep. They do something because they don't want to pay it back. So they're sitting in class doing nothing, playing video games. But they have to have the seat time. They have to be there the 160 hours. So this was a problem. So if you imagine you're a bright student going into an area where you have some experience, what happens? You end up owing a lot of money back if you're a Pell student. So this was part of the problem, and then the financial for those that weren't Pell, they didn't feel like they were getting their money's worth. So competency-based education measures learning rather than time. So student C can get out after a week and go on to the next class. Student B can get out after 80 hours and move on. Dr. Robert Mendenhall, president of WGU, quotes, "The most important characteristic of competency-based education is that it measures learning rather than time. Students advance upon demonstrated mastery. They don't need to sit and wait." Now, most college courses are semester-based. You start at the beginning, you go through the semester, and you're done. Well, my partner today, Luchadora Doug, is a great example. He came out of the Air Force, went to an electronics class. He showed up first day, midterm, and final. He already knew the stuff. He just had to wait the time. Why do we make him do that? You can only advance, he could only go on to the next one until the end of that semester. It's a waste of time. So with competency-based education, we have a major faculty role change. We were already open entry, open exit. Most of our stuff was online, but we had to get all of it online. We had to make it rich and robust. So the role changed from faculty. I tell people I don't give one lecture to 50 people a day. I give 30, 40 lectures a day to one person over and over. They can come in and get help. It's not all online. They can come in. We have class hours where they can come in and get help. It's like a lab with an instructor there. So that's the guide on the side, more or less. And we've been using Canvas since the beginning, early adopters of Canvas, and this was really good. We could put everything online. So at Salt Lake Community College, we define competencies as observable and measurable statements that measure skills, knowledge, or abilities. Keyboarding. The student will be able to type 40 or more correct words a minute on a 5-minute timing of average text, and they'll be able to do that multiple times. So we require 2 tests, 2 times of scoring over that. So once they do that, they're done. So what are the advantages of CBE? They're self-paced and self-directed. Self-direction is a great way to get your students involved. They can blow through stuff they know. They can get to stuff that they don't know, stuff they're interested in maybe. They're self-paced. They go, but there is a deadline. We're not truly open exit. Flexibility and delivery. They can come in and talk one-on-one with an instructor. They can do it all online. We have videos, we have audios. There's all kinds of things that we have, and we continue to make it robust and full. It recognizes prior learning. So if you come from the military and you're working on electronics on planes and aviation, you don't need to sit around and wait for the end of the semester to go on to the next course. You can take the test and move on if they don't take your credit. If you're student B or C in keyboarding, you can be there as long as you want, test and get out and get on. And you only pay for what you need. We instituted a 10-week block. They would pay for 10 weeks, and whatever they can get done in those 10 weeks, great, go for it. Reduced time to completion. So those that enter the program with extra motivation, with an affinity to learn, or previous knowledge or skills can move through the program faster. So if you can get through 10 weeks faster, you're going to save yourself 10 weeks of tuition. And that's our final one, is the reduced cost. All right, let's hear from some of our students who have gone through this.
With me personally for the CBE, the time frame for actually doing, completing all of the Canvas and the test out labs, that can go pretty quick. I know from personal experience, I had to repeat a couple times. From that, they put me on a contract. I had to do at least 9 hours a week in class and also study at home. Coming into class for the 9 hours was great. It helped me get everything accomplished. Taking the tests, I have a little bit of a test anxiety, but I do my best and get through them. It's just a matter of timing and saying like, oh yes, I'm going to go in today, and then go in and actually do it. You don't skip.
One thing she brings out is we don't average scores. You have to get the minimum score. A lot of it's 80%. They know that going in. You have to get to 40 correct words. You have to pass your test at 80% or above, or as she did, she just repeats the material, reinforces it, and moves on. Yeah, this thing's acting up. All right, student 2. Is that the
With
same
me
one?
personally, for
Oh, well. Forget about student 2. It worked earlier. So the process of creating CBA courses, when we got this grant, we were called in, we were told that we got this grant, we're going to go ahead and produce some CBE courses. And the first thing they did is they brought in a bunch of instructional designers to help us in that process. And they introduced a concept which they called backwards design. Some of you may be familiar with it. And in the book, Understanding by Design by Wiggins and McTee, they describe what happens in backwards design. You identify the desired results. In our industry, this is what we require. So bookkeeping, office work, we need 40 correct words a minute. So you can get it from state requirements, you can get it from industry certifications, whatever. They can give you what the desired result is. The student will, what will the student be able to do, and at what rate. The second part is determine acceptable evidence. For the keyboarding is actually doing it twice, having 2 5-minute timings at 40 correct words per minute or more. And I guess this new software gauge or something might help us in that, making sure that it's reliable and valid and that we're testing for what we're testing for. And then the third part of that is learning experiences and instructions, your learning objectives. You plan those. You make sure they're all aligned. And this wasn't an easy process because we as content experts were working with people that were design people. And so there was a lot of meetings. So one of the learning objectives in keyboarding would be what? What's the first thing? You got to learn home row. You got to learn technique, how to hit the key, tip of your finger, keep your fingers curved, wrists up. You don't want carpal tunnel, et cetera, et cetera. Then you move to first finger. Then you move to second finger. Then you move to third finger, and so on. So you lay all those out linearly, what they go through, what they have to do. So I'm going to tag team out and let Luchador Doug take over.
I don't know, is this thing working? Okay. Well, one thing I do is I kind of hate podiums. One of the reasons is if you have a podium, you're kind of stuck right here looking at things. So why even do CBE? I mean, we've had all these things, faster and everything else and all that. But one of the main things is seat time is a loser. I mean, that's just bottom line. Just because you're sitting in a seat doesn't mean that you're learning anything. If you don't believe me, go into any classroom that has computers set up where the students are looking at it. You'll have some students doing the work, some students doing whatever, some students checking out YouTube, checking social media, whatever. Okay? So seat time, requiring somebody to sit there is just a losing proposition. The problem is That's what the feds had decided for what we call clock hour based programs. So a student had to sit there. So again, it boils down to who decided learning faster is a bad thing. Like Karl alluded to, my problem was I had spent 20 years in the military working on aircraft avionics. That's electronics that operate the aircraft and make it fly and do all of its fun things and all that. The first day I showed up for class after I got out of the service, the guy had said, well, this class starts and ends in 15 weeks, and we're going through basic AC electronics. And I was like, yeah, sure. Why don't you get out of the way, and I'll teach this thing because I think I have a little bit more experience than you do. Because the guy was a grad student that was teaching the class. Nope, you will be here for 15 weeks. Thanks for putting my life on hold for basically 15 weeks now. So we had some challenges at CBE. The first thing was, how do you keep students progressing at a reasonable rate? One of the things that CBE, the people think with CBE is that CBE equals online. That's a design thing. If you wish to make your CBE course completely online like WGU, do so. In our case, we required certain things. One of them was what we called meaningful contact. We wanted to see the students weekly. We wanted to see them, not get an email. We all know what the email is, right? How you doing? I'm fine. Good. Thanks. Bye. I don't think that's meaningful. One of the other things is learners had to have access to course material, and they had to have access to course material 24/7. That's one thing that Canvas was really good about, and we really appreciate it. Faculty have to be able to step in when students need help. Our classroom times for our students are we are available from 8 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, Monday through Thursday. We have a Friday schedule that's only 8 to 2 because we have found most students aren't going to do anything after 2 o'clock on Friday. And all those students say, yeah, we're going to work on the weekend and all that. Don't see it too often. So availability of learning resources. Inside Canvas, we have put things in there for students like, hey, if you're having a problem with this and you don't want to get with me, check this out. It could be a YouTube video. It could be a web page. It could be anything that we see. Flexibility and access to academic assistance. Cammie was my student, and you heard her say she had test anxiety. Well, one of the things that, an academic resource is, can she go to certain people to college to help her maybe get over this anxiety? So students have, a lot of students do CBE think that they're only online and that they don't have access to anything. That's why they have to have that ability. Orientation programs. I don't know what everybody else thinks about sometimes our orientations, but orientations sometimes gloss over material. You need to make sure your orientation is robust so students can know, who do I contact if I'm feeling test anxiety? What is the learning center's responsibility? You may have to have, I have a syllabus, on my syllabus is like a page of just who do you contact for this problem or that problem, or if you need assistance with this. Those type of things need to be available. One of the other problems is students aren't familiar with CBE. The first thing they'll hear with CBE is, oh, it's all online. I never get to see the instructor. No, I do not want to deny the students the ability to come talk to me. Academic resources, we talked about. Student handbook. Most schools do have student handbooks. Obviously, you need to have something in there about CBE because sometimes CBE is different than what they're looking to. And then we have faculty involvement from day one. This isn't just a CBE issue. It's probably most every type of classroom, whether it's lockstep, hybrid, CBE, totally online, whatever. We've all had where if a student gets lost the first day, it's really hard to get them the next day or the day after that. So with the student handbook, you're not going to totally run up everything, but at least if they see a handbook, they can go, okay, how do I find my teacher again? Because I guarantee half of them forget the URL. Most of them won't remember their password after it's given to them. We have to help them through it. And then they can get it. And then hopefully the faculty can come and help them out. So I like this statement here from Ethan Hunt. Relax, Luther, it's much worse than you think. As Karl said, I am a big fan. I came out of the military, and one of the things we were taught from day one, it's a quote from von Kloss. It says, no plan withstands first contact with the enemy. Well, that holds true even with CBE. No matter how you decide to put it together, your plan is going to change, and how you do it is going to change. One of our problems is Canvas does not track competencies. Some people will go, well, you can do learning mastery and kind of massage things and move things around, but it won't track a pure competency. How many people are not familiar with what a competency is? Everybody understands that? Cool. So the original thing we did is, one of the things we did is we laid out everything by weekly objectives, and I'll show you that here in a few moments. And we made each student put in an end of class date. Even though technically there's not an end date, we wanted the student to commit themselves to a date. So even in their mind, it's like, okay, I have this long to finish this class. And we found that's helped a lot. Meaningful contact. One of the biggest things I alluded to earlier is meaningful contact. I want to see the students weekly. So, because Canvas does not track competencies, and the LOs is what we call learning objectives make up competencies, we had to throw everything into spreadsheets first. Reason is that you have to be able to define what your learning objectives are and make sure they match your competencies and make sure it matches your assessments and labs and stuff that you may have put inside Canvas. So that's a long way of going around. Sure would be nice if somebody would come out with one. So what does it look like in Canvas? Well, you have, sorry. That one there? So that is just, okay, this particular slide, this is not a whole course. This is actually one chapter. You good with that? Okay. So, what it looks like in Canvas. These are the competencies themselves. These go into our syllabus in most cases. Students who complete Introduction to Networks will be able to perform. And this is the overarching, those big skill set things that we were talking about. Now, we break those down even farther into those learning objectives that you saw. So our first try, very basic if you think about it, looking at it, this is kind of a linear Canvas course, do this, do that, here's your syllabus, here's your test, whatever lab and all that. The problem was students were getting lost. What do I have to finish and how fast do I have to finish this? Even though we had put the time, how long we expected each area to last, they still couldn't get it. So I made a change. This is how it looks now. You notice I took away the time and said, okay, week 1. Now this is just collapsed and I'll show how it's broke out. But I'm in my first week. So if I open up week 1 requirements and finish what's there, I stay on time. So how does that look? This is the breakdown. Should be very familiar. You have your chapter assignments, whatever quizzes, labs, everything else there. If they finish all that material for that week, they're on track to finish on time. If they finish it faster, kudos, keep pressing on. So, to identify struggling students, we heard him talk about analytics, and I'm wondering how much that's going to be valid now that they're changing everything, but I'll tell you a little bit about that. what data is shown, and how do we just use it to look at it. One of the things I do is I just look at the activity by date that's in there. In this case, it's kind of interesting. It's a seesaw, or peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys. Some of them make sense because, in March we took a spring break. That makes sense. And then they came back and boom, here, they really jumped off. But what happened in April? So these are things we look at for individuals to see what's going on. Did the student just start? Is it course layout? Maybe they're not following the course layout. We've had that happen. Content issue. How many times have we thought we got the best content in the world and put it in there, and it's not for some reason? Imagine that. So know our students, okay? I use this slide for one reason. If you notice, this is just page views per student and participations and all that. If you notice, most of the students are right around 350, 360, 400 and all that. Well, that's an average. Okay, but I've got two outliers here. Why do I have two outliers? Well, this is know your students again. The first student is one of the students is like 1,400 page views. The other is at like 190. The 190, did they know it and they moved on? Well, great, that's what they're supposed to. Know your student. What's the student at 1,400 page views like? Are they not getting something? Is there a problem there? Those resources that we talked about earlier, do I have to refer them to some of those people to help? This particular case, it was an English problem. So learning mastery. I'm not going to go totally crazy on this one because formally proposed by Benjamin Bloom. Everybody knows of Bloom's taxonomy. If you start doing CB, you're going to get very intimate with that. Mastery maintains a student can achieve any level of mastery depending on what you set it as. Okay. I guess everybody's in here for the conclusion. A lot of people did hit me up outside real quick. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on learning masteries. Obviously, we got people getting ready to come in here. But the problem with learning mastery and why we didn't go with it is learning mastery's basic idea is that given enough time and resources, a student can master anything. Well, with that in mind, given a student 3 years, they know how to write a letter. How many schools are going to let a student stay in there for, ever to finish one little thing? So that's probably the number one reason why we didn't go to learning mastery. We have a Canvas wish list. One of the first things that we actually have is the ability to chart progress. One of the things that we have in our schools, we want to know what your progress is. Now, we've had a lot of places say, well, progress is they show up and they do something. That's not progress. If we know with any mathematical formula, you have to have two values, right? One is how much work has been completed in how much time. That's the issue. Now, with competency-based, that's different than if you're in a semester-based, because at the end of the semester is when you grade everybody out. So that's the progress. But in competency-based, something can be done in day one or day 101. Hopefully not day 101, but that's the thing. So ability to chart progress, okay? It'd be nice if the student can see their progress also. Allow variable start and stop dates. We are a year-round part of the college. So we're not stuck with just a basic semester formula. So it'd be nice for us to have variable start and stop dates on it. Submodules. Remember they were talking earlier about big courses, big sections, all that. It would be nice if we were able to take one big module and split it up in 2 or 3 different smaller modules and have them checked. And collapse, yeah. Yeah. I have one that has like 20-some objectives. That sounds like a lot, but it's really not, but it's just really long. Be nice for me to break that out into like 2 areas and have it collapsed. I've seen this out on the boards, but faculty to send messages to all courses that they teach at one time. I hate that with Canvas, where I have to go to the course, send the email to the students, then guess what I got to do? I got to go to my next course and do the same thing, and my next course and do the same thing. It'd be nice if I could just click the email button in Canvas, email all my students. I'm not going to be in class today because I decided to go sailing. Don't tell Stephen that Fogg that. He'll get upset at me. Okay? So, well, let me go. I just want to acknowledge a couple of things. This presentation was just not done by Karl and myself. We had a team of people that helped us with this. Kelly Albers did the video earlier. Celeste Skinner, she's my wordsmith. She says, okay, Doug, I know you didn't mean to say this in there. And I'm like, how do you know I didn't? No. And she catches all that. Darcy, who had a lot of input, especially on the layout. And finally, Annette Mulder, who's actually our instructional designer, who has been here before. And she was able to help us out with some things. So at that point, I think we got, about 30 seconds for questions? Okay, and I will leave it at that.